I call to order City Council meeting for Wednesday, January 22nd, 2020. Our first item of business today will be the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll have that offered by Brian Clegg.
Will the audience please arise? Please repeat the pledge after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The audience may be seated.
Thank you, Mr. Clegg. Our first item of business tonight is special recognition of, we'll turn the time over to Chief Wallentyne to share that with us.
Thank you, Chairman, and members of the council and city officials and city guests and citizens. The Presidential Volunteer Service Award is something that was established by President George W. Bush. Some of us that have been around for a while may remember his 1,000 Points of Lights, and it was a great program, and for many people, it's been a means of recognition. We currently have 9 volunteers in the police department, and since 2014, they have donated approximately 5,484 hours of service. Now, I don't do math. The math guy, our money whiz, figured out that that's about $142,000 of vital services for which the police department has not paid. That's not really how we measure things around here, but we think it's fairly important. So I'm going to invite these individuals up one by one, and then we'll give them all an opportunity to have their picture taken. If you choose, you can have a picture taken with them. First, I'd like to ask Bonnie Hutchings to join me. Bonnie has been a volunteer of the West Jordan Police Department since 2008. Now, we just interviewed a young man and hired him as a police officer. And at the end of the interview, I said, you know, you kind of blew the interview because you didn't play it to your strongest suit. He said, well, what's that? I said, well, you talked about your dad as a police officer, but all you had to do is walk in here and say, I'm Bonnie Hutchings' grandson. And he was a great young man. Bonnie's receiving the Silver Award. That's given to people who volunteer over 250 hours, and she's almost doubled that. She's volunteered 442 hours in 1 year. She helps us manage our uniform return. So we recycle our uniforms. When an officer retires or leaves, if the uniforms are in decent condition, we get them cleaned, and she helps manage that, and that's incredibly helpful, as well as serving as a volunteer for our Citizen Academy and also a volunteer for our victim advocate. My wife is also a volunteer for the victim advocates, and she'll get a call from Bonnie in the middle of the night, and my wife says, that Bonnie Hutchings, she's so chipper at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's an amazing. She is a wonderful volunteer. Bonnie, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just wait right here for just a minute. I'd next like to ask Roger Davis to join us. Roger has been a volunteer since November of 2016. And he's receiving the Bronze Award. The Bronze Award is given to persons who volunteer over 100 hours. And Roger, in the last year, had volunteered 127 hours. Now, most of the people here do not realize that this man has a very direct impact on traffic safety in West Jordan neighborhoods. You see the speed trailers that pop up around town? We don't have to pay an officer to go get a pickup truck and hook those up and take them. We simply have a traffic sergeant who helps us plan the limited deployments that we can use with those speed trailers. He sends an email to Roger, and Roger sort of creeps into the secured parking area there and hooks up the speed trailer and goes and sets it up. And when it's time for the speed trailer to move to another place, he just magically makes it move somewhere else. That is, it may not seem like a big deal to you, but if you can just begin to imagine the savings for our officers, and it allows us to be far, far more responsive to the citizens when they say, hey, I have speeders on my street, what can you do? And so we're very, very grateful for what Roger does for us. Roger, thank you. Now, Bill Hoag could not be here tonight. I'm just going to mention that Bill has been a volunteer with us since 2010, also receiving the Bronze Award. Bill's worked in a lot of areas, but he's helping us right now in our animal shelter, which is a very important contribution. Lastly, I'd like to ask Suzanne Parker if she'd come and join me. Suzanne's been a volunteer with us since 2016, and she also is receiving the Bronze Award. She's volunteered 102 hours. She helps with our 4th of July parade, our carnival booth, and our law enforcement torch run. And one of the programs, volunteer programs, that's really near and dear to my heart, that's our summer reading program. I absolutely love it when the volunteers and Christy get the kids together at the library on, I think it's Wednesdays, and I get to go over and read children's books with kids. It's like the high point of the week for the chief of police. Everybody likes me. Not a single person complains the whole day. It's really cool. Suzanne, thank you so much for helping with that program. Wait there for just 1 second. We've got one more. I'd also like to invite up one of our officers, Detective Kim Welty, and just share with you some information about an award that she received this last Monday. The mayor was present, as well as a number of our department command staff. Officer Welty has a 20, I don't know. I've known Kim for a while. Is that a good enough thing? Yeah, okay, I've known her for a while. She has over 20 years, and you know, Kim was one of the key people in helping us reintroduce the DARE program in our community, and she has responsibility for 3 of the elementary schools, and primarily those that are Title I, and has responsibility for principally the population of students from immigrant families, refugees families, and families of color. And I cannot begin to tell you the sense that I get when I walk into an elementary school and see kids. She's like the Pied Piper. And she told me today, she said, I'm tired because, you know, you have to be happy all the time when you're with kids. And the amazing thing is when she's with kids, the kids are very happy. She received the very prestigious NAACP First Responder Award. That's pretty impressive. And so she was there in front of a couple thousand people and received this prestigious award, but it's the 2nd year in a row that a West Jordan police detective has won this award. And so we're very proud of Kim, and we're very proud of her performance and also her contributions to the West Jordan Police Department and all of our officers. Council Chair McConaughey, if you'd like, we'd love to have pictures taken with the council, and I'll leave that up to you, sir.
Absolutely. I'd like to ask the council to come down for pictures, and I would invite the mayor to join us as well.
Okay, you gotta get your picture taken, lovely lady. Once again. Tell me how you'd like, the council's gonna go there, so you direct the picture taking, professional person. Wherever you want. Sir. And Mr. Chair, that's it from the police department. Thank you for accommodating us.
No, thank you, Chief, for allowing us to participate in the presentation. Very much appreciate you bringing that to us. Thank you. Okay, we'll now open it up for citizen comments. There are 2 opportunities to speak tonight. Citizen comment can be about anything, whether on the agenda or not. We will have a public hearing a little bit later, so if you're here to speak for that, you're welcome to wait until that one. But we'll go ahead and open it up for citizen comment. You'll have 3 minutes. I haven't received any form from anyone wishing to speak, so we'll open it up and come to the podium. Thank you. If you could please start off and share with us your name.
Yeah, my name is Sam Winkler. I'm actually a resident of South Jordan. I just wanted to come and address the council tonight and appreciate the opportunity to do so. I was here to make an announcement that I'm actually going to be running for House District 42 that's being vacated by Kim Coleman. Tell you a little bit about myself. I've been a police officer for over 22 years, most of that here in the Salt Lake Valley. And Chief Valentine has tried many times unsuccessfully to bring me over here. I'm very happy where I'm at, and I appreciate him. Although we work with your guys all the time, they all have nothing but positive things to say about this. So they love the city. I've got family that lives in the city. So thank you. I just have a little prepared thing I'm just going to read and move on from there so you can get on with the night. So I've sworn an oath to protect the citizens of Utah and those with whom I serve and make a better future for them. And if elected, this will be the same that I would do as representative for the House of Representatives. I'll continue to protect Utahns through improved fiscal accountability and focusing on improving air quality and protecting the environment in which we all live. But I'm not only focused on today. Through increased investment in our public systems, including education, first responders, healthcare, I'll work hard to secure a better generation for future generations to come. So that's all I have for you guys tonight. Thank you, and have a good meeting.
Thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to address the council? Please come forward.
Hello, my name's Dallin Anderson. I'm actually here representing the West Jordan Parks and Open Lands Committee. So today, I actually just want to take a moment of your time to talk about some of the committee goals that we've established for 2020. On January 9th of 2020, we got together and we determined 4 goals that we wanted to hopefully achieve for the remainder of this year. The first goal is we wanted to obtain greater feedback from the community on park maintenance and new amenities wanted by the public. We feel that this directly correlates to the duties and the responsibilities that we have as a committee and will allow for us to gather more feedback and public interest to help recommend changes and overall improvements to our parks and open lands. The second goal that we established was we really wanted to this year to conduct some type of open house or open forum at City Hall where members of the public can come and give their ideas and their feedback on developing our parks and our open lands. As a committee, we believe that this will broaden our central role, as well as it'll help us to invite, receive, and relay that feedback to city staff, the mayor, and the city council. And that really will help the overall development of the parks and open lands. The third goal that we established as a committee was to have a city council member or a member of the executive branch to attend our meetings on a regular basis. We felt that doing this would establish, clear ensured feedback and input is received at all levels of our government and will really help with future enhancements and developments that we would like to see as a committee. Our fourth goal was, as a committee, we'd like to visit 6 or more parks in 2020. I know that seems kind of silly, but we feel like actually going out and visiting parks in West Jordan will help us have a really good established close view to see, hear, and feel the different pain points that other residents of West Jordan may be feeling and be able to take that information, those suggestions to make better recommendations to the city. We established these goals to really increase the transparency, the visibility, and the input from the public, and we're really excited to do that for 2020. So as the chair of the committee, they asked me to come and speak to you fine folks and just let you know of some of the goals that we're going to be doing and hope that you can help us achieve those goals as we move forward. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions if you have any. Great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I do have a question.
Yes.
Dallin, so what kind of help would you like from us?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest ways that you could help us as a committee is having that visible presence. And I know we're not quite sure, is it, somebody from the council that used to be assigned in the last form of government, or is it somebody from the executive branch that's going to be with us? But having that visible kind of presence month over month as we meet as a committee would be so important and so impactful for us. And so if we could get that support, that would be super, super helpful, and it'll get us on the right foot as we move forward.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, good evening. Thank you for your service to West Jordan. My name is Aaron Starks, and I too am a candidate running for House District 42 here in the state of Utah. It is a pleasure to be with you tonight and announce my candidacy to you. I am the general manager of our business in Asia for a local company with international ties, Franklin Covey. I oversee our business there and have been a lifelong resident of the state of Utah. For the past year, I've been the vice chairman of our state Republican Party, where our team and I have successfully bailed the party out of debt, which was a huge undertaking, and we're back to helping serve the community here like a political party is supposed to. Issues that are important to me that I would love to discuss with you over the ensuing weeks and months will be education, growth, and third to that, improving our air quality here in the state of Utah. All very, very important for us wherever you live. Over the upcoming weeks, I would like to speak with each of you, not to press my agenda or to tell you what's important to me, but to understand more of what's important to you. I'm a candidate who firmly believes in convening people and partnering with local and municipal leaders and limiting state overreach. The work that you do here for West Jordan is significant, it's important, and as a potential legislator here in the state, my number one goal will be to understand your vision and direction for West Jordan and to help you fulfill that. So you can see more information on my website at Starks, S-T-A-R-K-S, forutah.com, starksforutah.com, and I hope to speak with you soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to address the council tonight? Steve Jones.
Steve Jones, I live here in West Jordan. Just a couple quick thoughts come to mind. One is as I see these candidates come up and one of the things that kind of sticks in my craw a little bit is we get some that stay and some that come in, give their spiel, and they walk out the door. And we don't have a chance to really listen to what the citizens have to say. This citizen here is eternally grateful for our first responders and for the volunteers and the work that they do. I heard you talking tonight about computers and things like that. And the first thing that comes to my mind is you as a city council need to make sure that they have the equipment they need. They are the lifeblood, as far as I'm concerned, of this city. I had a wonderful conversation with Denise afterwards. Those are the type of people that we have in this city that are just awesome. And I really hope that you look at it and understand and appreciate the work that they do, and that your first order of business is to make sure they have the equipment and the things that they need to do their job, which then protects me as a citizen. I've said it before, and I've stood here before and told you some of this stuff to me is just fluff. And I really could honestly care less. But when I drive down the road and I start to see our buildings being tagged, that causes me great concern. Then I watch that tagging remain there for 2 weeks. That's a bigger concern. And yet, we're talking about whether the city council needs 3 phones and a laptop, and I'm just going, sorry. You guys have certain pieces of equipment you need to do your job, you should get it. Same thing goes with the people that are on the street doing actual work. Do our utility peoples have it? Do we have, I know for a fact that over the years we've struggled with keeping our water infrastructure in one piece, but yet I've seen this council give price breaks and other things to developers to try to lure them in here. But then I see you guys stand up and say, oh, geez, we don't have enough money to pay for that infrastructure. I've been watching this for a better part of 5 years now. I'm an individual that's been here almost every single city council meeting. I know what goes on here. And so with that, I'm just going to give you a gentle reminder. Take care of the people that are on the street, and then they will take care of us, and life will be good. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else to speak this evening? All right, we will move on to communications, starting with the mayor's report. Mayor Burton.
Thank you, Chair McConaughey. So since we met last, it's been a busy couple of weeks, and I've represented the city at several events and different groups. One is the Salt Lake Council of Governments, and I want to thank Councilman Jacob for joining me at that meeting. With the Western Growth Coalition, the Southwest Mayors Coalition, and earlier today I visited the World Trade Center and the Economic Development Corporation of Utah to help continue having our economic development go forward here in the city to keep it strong and healthy. I also, on Martin Luther King Day, along with several from our police department, including our chief, attended the Martin Luther King Day banquet that the NAACP was putting on, where you just saw our officer who got the award, but something that the chief failed to mention is he also received an award at that banquet. He was honored with a lifetime award, and so I want to congratulate our chief. We have fantastic police department, starting with the chief and all the way down to all of them. So we are fortunate to have the police officers and the firefighters that we have in our city, along with others, but he received that award, so I just want to bring that to light as well. I've also had the opportunity to meet with several residents and businesses throughout our community, and many of our city staff. I'm making our way around the city and meeting with our staff, as many as I can. And Monday, I got to go to a ribbon cutting, and Council Member Worthen was there as well for Old Crab over in Jordan Landing. So we're welcoming those additional restaurants and businesses in our city as well. And today, we just offered a position for our city recorder. You'll be getting the information on a new city recorder soon, so that you can support that individual, as you see, at our next council meeting, and have the opportunity to confirm that appointment. So we're making some progress, and we're going forward here. So if all goes well with that, by late February, we should have a city recorder here in the city. So I appreciate the opportunity for the staff to meet with them and for the council to share this. I'm looking forward for the invitation you did to invite me and several of the staff to your strategic planning meeting coming up. I'm hoping to find some good opportunities to see where your goals are so we can fulfill those and make sure we accomplish what the city wants to do in that. And that's all I have for right now. Oh, we also have our legislative sessions coming up, and I understand that you may have an opportunity. You have selected a person to join the LPC, is that correct? Along with
That is business item 9A.
Oh, okay. I will hold off on that. I also want to mention the Western Growth Coalition has come up with a resolution which I emailed out to the council, and if the council is agreeable with that resolution, I would like to carry that to our legislators during this session, which is coming up, which was tweaked slightly, and I'll get you the new copy, but the resolution is still pretty much the same, which basically asks our local representatives and all representatives in the state to keep us in mind for the transportation needs that we have in the southwest area of the city, because that is a high priority that all the southwest cities feel, and we've grouped together on that one. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Lee.
I just have a report from Denise Steck on a couple of items.
Utilities, utilities, and more utilities. We have a couple updates for you. Solid waste. We have talked to you before about an area in our city which was annexed that we don't provide water or sewer service for. However, there's a lot of delinquent accounts in that area, and they're severely delinquent. And so we have been working with our legal department and have determined that we will need to change the code in order to do a large container pickup so that we could discontinue service in those areas. We'll be bringing that to you in a work session next council meeting. However, in the meantime, we've been working with our provider, ACE, and they have volunteered to assist us in this effort and allowed us to give them 15 accounts that we would like them to not pick up service in those areas. We've tried contacting these residents by mail for multiple years, by door hanger, by phone, and in person. In addition, when we gave ACE the list of 15 account holders that owe us between $2,000 and $4,000 for multiple years of garbage, streetlight, and stormwater service that they have not paid for, ACE went door to door to those 15 people and notified them that this week they would discontinue service as directed by the city, as well as Brian Clegg and his team went door to door and did the same thing. So they've been contacted in many ways. A couple have made payment arrangements and we will continue service for them. The rest of them ignored any kind of contact, and today their service was discontinued. So we wanted you to be aware that that occurred and that there are 13 customers that did not receive service and won't receive service until they make some sort of arrangement with the city to pay for the services going forward. The next one is the stormwater implementation plan, and as you requested, we began work on that communication plan of that calculation change. We recommend an implementation date of July 1st of 2020 for all accounts, unless there's a formal appeal to the council before that time. And that would be on a case-by-case basis. We believe this provides enough time for the business communities to respond and apply for any credits or discounts that they might have, put any kind of remediation in that they might want to, or adjust their budgets going forward. We'll be sending letters with the individual impact to every business that's affected, whether it's a positive or a negative effect. So whether there's an increase or a decrease, we will let them know what that is, and that implementation time will be July 1st. We believe those letters should be going out around the middle of February by the time we work through all of it. And last of all, I issued financial statements today through December of 2019. So those are mid-year statements, so that's 50% of your budget year. They should be a good indicator of where we're going financially, and will be used as a good basis for us building the budget moving forward. And if you have any questions about those statements, you certainly are welcome to contact me. I did add an additional statement to the financials that you haven't seen before. It's the first one, and it's called a government-wide statement of net position. I added that because I've been asked by a couple of council members about a couple things. Overall, where's our city with cash? Or overall, where are we in reserves? That statement will tell you that number easily, so that you can say from this year to last year, where were we on cash flow? From this year to last year, where are we on reserves? So you can see that change from December of last year through December of this year. Hopefully that's helpful for you. In addition, I know during the legislative session, you'll get a lot of questions like, what's your city's value, or those kinds of things, and that statement will give that to you pretty quickly. But if you have any questions during this legislative session about sales tax or financial impacts, please feel free to reach out to me. That's it.
Denise, I just have a quick question for you. The delinquent solid waste accounts, I'm assuming they're all in the same area of the city that is serviced by Kearns
They are.
for water, and that is Ochre Shadows, north part of District 3.
Correct.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I was ready for the phone calls, so thanks.
Is that your district?
It is, thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, Councilmember Worthen, did you have a question?
Denise, I just wanted to thank you for all your hard work. Before I became a council member, I was told how impressive you are, and it is just nothing but shown. So I very much appreciate all your hard work for us.
Next up, Council Advisor, Mr. Bricky.
Thank you. I have nothing to report this evening.
Okay. City Council, Councilmember Pack.
Well, thank you, Chair. Each time we meet, I try to have an update so that we know what's going on during the 2-week period. So I've been able to meet with various citizens and business leaders to discuss their concerns or priorities regarding fees, taxes, open land, development. So I'll continue to do that just to stay informed with what's on the minds of the residents and local economic leaders. And also I've tried to establish a couple of focus groups with people from different demographic populations of the city so that I can ensure that I get feedback from different perspectives so that I can minimize blind spots. And so that's been really productive with talking about roads and transportation. And speaking of which, I'm extremely grateful for the traffic safety rods that are now in the median of 7800 South with the windy road. So I'm grateful for our city that's put that there. I've been pretty vocal on just having, two little stripes with oncoming traffic, especially with our winter weather, might not be able to see late at night or with rain or snow on the road. And so I'm grateful for those safety precautions that have been put into place. And that's all, Chair. Thank you.
Councilmember Lamb.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Councilmember Green.
I don't think I have anything tonight either.
Councilmember Jacob.
I don't think Councilmember Green has anything tonight either. Just wanted to expound on what the mayor was talking about the COG meeting this last week. The COG has or is a participant in several committees that are regional. The COG obviously is the Council of Governments for Salt Lake County, so all the cities get to participate in the COG in one fashion or another, usually a mayor and a council member or something along those lines, depending on the size of the city. And then the COG gets to appoint its members or other people to various regional committees. And so this last meeting, they do that in January, the first meeting of the year. And this last meeting, Councilmember Burton, I told myself I wasn't gonna do that. Mayor Burton was appointed to the Active Transportation Subcommittee. And so he will be he'll be part of the committee that advises Wasatch Front Regional Council on bike paths and running paths and active transportation things, which is awesome for West Jordan to have that representation. And then I was appointed to the Joint Policy Advisory Committee, which I can't wait to find out more about that, but it's a committee that meets 4 times a year and advises Wasatch Front on all sorts of policy issues. So it's a good thing for West Jordan to have that representation on those committees. And I think that's all I had. I wanted to echo what Councilmember Pack said to Public Works about getting those candlesticks, I think they're called, in the middle of 7800 South there past the airport. Huge improvement. Thank you so much for that. That's gonna go a long way. And I believe that's all I had for tonight. Thank you.
Councilmember Whitelock.
Just for anyone here or listening, our Healthy West Jordan Committee is going to be starting the Way to a Better Life. Registration is open. It's a great program. There's going to be lots of opportunities to learn about healthy ways to eat, exercise, think, lots of different opportunities. So it's a great program, so I invite anyone and everyone to sign up.
And Councilmember Worthen.
Had a couple things I wanted to mention. As Mayor Burton mentioned, I went to the ribbon cutting for O Crab. If you haven't had the opportunity, check it out. They have great seafood. They fed us lunch, and it's fantastic. Probably one of the best seafoods I've had in a long time. Also want to thank our officers for their handling of the incident recently off of about 9300 South and 36 West. I actually have some friends that live right down the street, and they had no idea that anything was even going on. So I want to commend them for that. Also wanted to mention, I'm part of an organization called the Utah Girls Tackle Football League. They have had 22 of the 500 members invited to play during halftime at the Pro Bowl. So 2 of those girls are residents here in West Jordan. One in my district goes to West Jordan High, another one goes to Copper Hills High. But very proud of them, and we should be proud of our girls for, they're gonna be representing our state at the Pro Bowl this year. So that's all I have.
All right, and I have no additional updates for the council tonight. So we will proceed on to public hearings. Public hearing 6A, to receive public input and consideration for approval resolution 20-05, which is the 2019 West Jordan Water Conservation Plan update. And I believe this is going to be presented by Mr. Hayrand.
evening, Council. Unfortunately, I'm not able to open that up unless we can get that going, but hopefully you have that in front of you, the report in front of you to look at while we just briefly go through it. The report is intended to be a 5-year outlook for things that we can look forward to achieving. And it's also kind of a snapshot in time of where we are presently with our water conservation. It's not meant to introduce any policy. It's not meant to spend any budget. And with that in mind, let's take a look at some of the growth that's occurred with our water and our usage. If we can first refer to figure 3, which shows our average gallons per capita per day by year. That's on page 5 of the report. Where we are right now is in the last metered record year of 2018, West Jordan residents averaged 206 gallons per person throughout the city. That is a little increase from 2017, where we averaged 193 gallons per person. And our goal over the life of the Governor Herbert's 25% reduction is to get down to 170 gallons. Oh, great. Let's see. Let's get to figure 3. So we zoom in on that. Is there a way to get that a little closer? Okay, and scroll down. Thank you. Okay, so on the left, you see where we are now is 206, and we did reach the goal of 170 in the year 2011. Coincidentally, or not so coincidentally, I should say, it was also a very heavy precipitation year for us. So just as an engineer, I always look at things in numbers. It's just ingrained in my system. I don't know where it started, but I really enjoy it. And I wondered why this graph fluctuated so much, and maybe you're wondering the same thing. Why does it go up and down so much through the years? So I don't think it's the residents that are changing their behavior as much as it is the precipitation and our weather. And I think we're all trained. We've seen the commercials, we've heard the advertising from the Division of Water Resources, and we kind of know that we live in an arid state, and we know that we need to conserve water. And we're setting our sprinklers appropriately, 3 days a week watering, and we turn them off when it rains, and we're doing those kinds of things. But what we don't have any control over is the weather. So sure enough, as I compared a precipitation graph, which was not required by the Division of Water Resources, I just happened to have that, it pretty much, our usage pretty much followed the precipitation graph year over year. So that tells me at least one big thing is that we are educated, and our citizens, when are turning down their water systems, and when we have a heavy precipitation year, we're using less water. But when we also have a dry water year, we like our lawns to look good, and we can't have a brown spot on our lawns, and that's probably part of our human nature as well. And so we bump up our sprinkler timers, and I keep referring to landscape because it is the #1 use of our water in the summer. So what is the solution to that? And I think we all know that water-wise landscaping is the path for the future for us. And if we can reduce our grass areas and use more drought-tolerant plants, that's really going to help our water use. How does that benefit the city? Maybe we can look at our conservation goal on table 5, which is just the next page down. All right, great. Table 5 shows with efficient water use of 170 gallons per capita per day, and next to it, in the column right next to it, is our projected water use with 206 gallons per capita per day. As you compare those numbers, those are in acre feet, you can see quite a bit of difference in the water savings. So for instance, by 2025, we can save 4,000, almost 4,600 acre feet per year of water. That's a cost savings to us as a population of 2.8 million. Okay, now, even though it's a cost savings to us, we also have to be careful because that's also water revenue that the city won't receive. So as we use less water, we have to balance that with the water coming in to support the water infrastructure as well. So there's a fine balancing act that the council will need to be aware of in the future as we do reduce our water usage. That will affect our water revenue. How about our reliable water supply? That was the next area. If we could go to figure 4 in the report, we'll take a look at that. We are very fortunate in the city of West Jordan. We have a fantastic water source through the Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District. We currently have 4 operating city wells, and those will be more usable in the future when the Kennecott sulfate plume that is currently in our groundwater is reduced. So right now we can't fully utilize those wells throughout the year because if we turn on those wells all year long, we're actually drawing this sulfate plume towards us. And so we only run them right now during the summer in our peak water use. But in the future, as that sulfate plume is reduced and kind of eliminated, it's going to take some time, 30 years probably. But at that point, we will rely more heavily on the city's wells. And we also have additional water rights that we can use that we're saving as our population builds out. We have those in reserve. And I complete those reports so that they are maintained and ready to go when we need them. And we also have canal shares that we can utilize in the future. For instance, right now we have several of our city parks that are using the canal water, and we hope to increase that number in the future. So what figure 4 shows us with our water supply and use, the gray columns show our current water use, while the blue line shows what we could be using if we efficiently reduce our water use. So we would like to have the gray columns kind of line up with that blue line in the future, and that would range to 170 gallons per person per day. The dark blue is our supply. So you can see that we have a very consistent and adequate supply for the future. So we are very fortunate in this city. Not every city is like that in Utah. Okay, the next topic of the report is our water losses. I know this is kind of a tough topic to talk about, but no water system is perfect. Gaskets leak, pipes break. We have to flush the hydrants to maintain proper water quality. Part of the lost revenue that you see on table 6 is due to those kinds of things that we can only control so much of that, and no matter how efficient a water system is, unfortunately we are always going to have some water losses. We are on top of our metering. We thank you for the budget for that, and we look forward to replacing meters in the future and keeping new and calibrated meters in our system, especially on the commercial areas, the high usage areas. We try to keep good calibrated meters on those because every time we have an old meter that's not functioning properly, we're losing water revenue. So that really affects our bottom line. Appreciate the council's efforts to bring conservation into the city's water rates and to help citizens realize that water wasting is not good for anyone and should be billed accordingly. And with our goals in the future, this would be over the next 5-year period or longer until the next report. Our citywide goals include monitoring and promoting efficient outdoor water usage. We use 4 times as much water in the summer as we do in the winter, so of course landscape is important there. Water use during dry years is significantly higher than in normal water years, so we want to promote more drought-tolerant landscaping. We would like to encourage a water conservation culture, and we can do that through better education. And we'd also include the potential for further indoor and outdoor conservation. There are a lot of rebates right now. If you look at the State of Utah's website and Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District's website, there are rebates for what they call flipping your strip, which is getting rid of the grass in your park strip. There's rebates for putting in xeriscape in the front yards and backyards, things like that. Also replacing old toilets. You can get a rebate of $100 for replacing an old toilet. And so the other one is a smart water controller. You get a $50 rebate to install a smart water controller, which monitors the weather and your sprinkler usage and adjusts it accordingly. So all kinds of things that we can work on. I think the most important thing is to have a good education program. In the past, we've spent a lot of money on things I don't think really help too much. When you compare the money that we spent, tens of thousands of dollars, for instance, to bring in a consultant to go to the 4th grade classes. I mean, that's neat and everything, but I think we get more value for the money that we spend when we do things on our websites and when we promote some of the Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District programs and the state programs. With that, I'll open it up for any questions that you may have.
Any questions from the council? Councilmember Jacob.
I have just one quick question. This plan is required to be submitted to the state once every 5 years. Is there a deadline for this?
December 31st.
December 31st of this year?
Last year.
Of last year?
Yeah.
And we're seeing it for the first time in January of the year, 3 weeks late. Is that, am I summarizing correctly?
You are.
Okay, just wanted to make sure because, yeah, anyway, just wanted to make sure.
Councilmember Whitelock.
Thank you. First, I want to thank you for doing this. I understand that in the past we've had outside help that has cost significantly more to put this report together. And I want you to know that I understand that you're not the reason that we're seeing it late, that there's many variables in there. So thank you for your work. I appreciate the answers that I received to my questions. I think this is a prime example for the body to realize that work meetings work because then we can have these open dialogue, and we could have maybe had some input on this earlier had we given staff the opportunity to come before us while he was putting the report together. That being said, one thing that I think, maybe you know this already, I didn't. If you water by hand, you're not eligible for any of those rebates because you're already 25% more efficient. So I'm 25% more efficient than many of you. So I'm saving water, but I don't get anything for flipping my strip. I struggle with just one part of this, and it's another thing that we as a body need to remedy. In here, it talks about artificial turf, yet our code doesn't allow for artificial turf currently. So it's something that we need to work on, because otherwise it doesn't work with our code, and that's a problem to me. And it makes it a little bit tricky for me to want to say yes, and not just accept this report, but to vote on it. So I think that whoever makes the motion for this resolution, to approve this resolution should probably also, we should put something in there that we will address looking at this code within a certain amount of time so that they can be in synced with each other.
Councilmember Green.
I was going to save my comments for a little bit later, but I'm going to jump in and piggyback off of Councilmember Whitelock. What you made and I'm not attacking you, so I want you to understand this. You made a comment that this isn't policy, and I'm going to slightly disagree. I think that this is policy, and this is a policy of where we want to take water conservation. And I think that this is a prime example, and I'm gonna pass this on more to the mayor and to the chief administrative officer. But I think this process gives us a perfect opportunity to look at the way our processes will work in the future to say, if we had this in a work session or we were discussing this 4 or 5 months ago, then we can talk about ways that we see as a vision to conserve water. We could hold the public hearing, and then we can take all of that feedback, put it back into the plan, and send a real good product back to the Division of Water. Because honestly, I'm not sure that I think this plan is aggressive enough when it comes to secondary water, and maybe trying to contact some of our big water users like Aligned Energy, PayPal, Oracle, and see if there's not a way that we can't reclaim some of their water and those kinds of things as we talk about conserving water. So I just as a future thing, because it's not going to stop me from helping adopt this tonight, because I think we need to get it to Division of Water. But I think that's just a future thing that if we can look and be a little bit more proactive, then we really can get the input and the policy feedback from the council that we really would like to see in this kind of a document to help set the tone for the next 5 years, if that makes sense.
Any other questions from council? Councilmember Pack.
Thank you. Just quickly, I really appreciated this report because I've been so engrossed in fees and rates and consumption that it was really interesting to note 1.7 million is just lost and unaccounted for. And I know we have it discusses the radio read metering system. And could you just speak to that just quickly? Is that through needing more maintenance or upgrades to the equipment that we have? Is it the reading equipment? I'm understanding that's probably newer than the other pipes and meters. What is it exactly that's causing the 1.7 million unaccounted loss, and how do you even know that it's 1.7 million since it's hard to track?
Sure. So what that number comes from is you take the metered supply of water that comes into the city, and you subtract off our metered data within the city, and that difference of the supply versus what we build gives the 1.7. As far as the radio read meters, yes, that's going to be a fantastic program. The metering system right now is a good one. It's accurate. However, it doesn't give us instantaneous or minute-by-minute readings, hour-by-hour, day-by-day. With the new system, we'll be able to look at that, and for instance, if somebody has a frozen pipe in their basement that breaks and they happen to be on vacation or whatever, we'll be able to notice almost instantaneously that something is wrong at that particular residence or that business, and we'll be able to see a high water usage and hopefully be able to save water that way. So that's going to make a difference for us.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Hammond. I'll open up the public hearing. Anybody wishing to comment can have 3 minutes to do so. Mr. Jones.
Steve Jones, live here in West Jordan. A couple of things that come to mind when we talk about water conservation. The first thing is our city has a ton of clay. And, you're asking me as a resident to conserve and to do better, but yet I look at this clay and I look at what we allow the developers to do. First thing a developer does when he comes into a new lot is he scrapes all the topsoil off and takes it somewhere else. He builds a house and he tells the homeowner, there you go. Somebody's just dumped $400,000 into a home, and guess what? They don't put that topsoil back down. You want to talk to me personally about doing conservation? you need to start doing something about conservation. We have ordinances that can be enforced that we should enforce. Another gripe that I've got is you talk about raising the rates. You know what? We get the rates raised whether we conserve water or whether we're in a drought year or we're in a wet year. It all boils down to somebody looks at it and says, you know what, my bottom line for this budget is not here, so I got to raise the rates. That is really negative impact to me. I look at that and go, it doesn't matter whether I water my lawn a whole bunch or I water a little bit. You're going to raise my rates regardless. And if that's your mentality, then you're not going to get people to buy into your programs. I'm sorry. I saw a thing today in the workshop talking about large water users. We have these HOAs and what's enough, and they've been sliding along here not having to pay their fair share. And you come back to me and I have this little 1/4 acre lot, and you're beating me up and telling me that I got to do better, but yet you're allowing them to skate through the system just because they're a large water user. He just mentioned promote incentives. You bet. If somebody come out and told me that I could get $50 back by changing over my 35-year-old controller to something that I can see, that's an incentive. I'll do something like that. But it has to be published so that I know it. If it's hidden in some paperwork someplace, you got nothing. How we purchase water here in the city. And I know this for a fact. I've had friends that have worked for the city and worked in the water department. How we purchase our water is very important. If we have somebody purchase it at certain times, the cost to us is less. Are we looking at? I know there was a time there where we were not. We were purchasing in the middle of the afternoon and when the rates were higher, and so guess what? It costs us as a city more. Rather than paying somebody an extra couple dollars overtime to sit there and purchase it at the most convenient time or the most beneficial to the city. There are a lot of things that we can do as a city to do conservation. We just have to think outside the box a little bit. Instead of repeating these same things over and over again, that are just going to go in one ear and out the other. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else to address the council on this item? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and turn it back to the council for discussion and potentially motion. Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have one more question. I'm not sure who's the best person to field this from the staff, but what is the penalty for being late on this, and what is the penalty for being a little bit later on this? Is there a penalty? Is there something we're missing out on? Is there state funds that we don't get? Anything like that?
There's no penalty.
Okay.
Actually, sorry, I'm going to interrupt. The state can penalize us through our bonding if we don't provide it. So we don't normally bond, but we would be one of the few municipalities that hasn't turned it in on time.
When we're already in that bucket. So is there a further penalty if we put this off for another 4 to 6 weeks so that we can get it right? Is there more penalty than we're already under?
Well, you'll incur the wrath of the legislature saying the city of West Jordan didn't turn it in on time.
Our candidates left. Man, something we could have brought up. Okay, thanks.
So I'll jump in for a second to dovetail with Councilmember Jacob's question. Once this has been, let's say this is accepted, can we amend this in less than the time that it's required? Could we amend this later this year and update this plan further? So,
Yes, we can. We'll be able to amend it and make changes.
awesome, thank you. The other thought that I had, as the information was being shared, the goal of 170 gallons per person per day across the board, I would like to see something broken out that highlights just residential, because that seems to include commercial, industrial, institutional, everything. And as I'm doing the math, my little family of 7, we've got 5 little boys. We are running the washing machine all the time. During the summer, they've got the hose going all the time, no matter how many times we shut it off. even shutting off the main in the garage, so they didn't realize they could find that, but they can, but the water's running a lot. Still, if we were to target 170 gallons per day per person, that's just shy of 1,200 gallons per day, which is almost 36,000 gallons per month for the household, which seems really, really high. I just pulled up one of my old bills, and we've been able to get down as low as 4,500 gallons, between 4 and 5 units in a month. So I would really, as a resident, like to see a reasonable goal for a residential, either per connection or per individual, just because that might be something that we could better communicate with the residents. If we really want to focus on conservation, we have to make something actionable that people can relate to. I think people are going to see 170 gallons per person per day. Oh wow, I only did 5,000 gallons. I am 1/7 of what I can use. I can just let that toilet run all year long and it's not going to be a problem. So I'd love to see something a little bit more relatable. Councilmember Green.
I'm ready to make a motion. Anybody object to that? I'm going to make the motion that we approve Resolution 2005, approving the West Jordan 2019 Water Conservation Plan with the conditions that we make an update to this by September 1st, 2020, and look at adjusting the landscape ordinances as well to encourage conservation and future developments, but we'll just leave it at updating the landscape ordinance.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion to the motion? Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you. I'm going to be, I like where you're going with this, but because it is a policy, I see it as a policy document as well, kind of like you mentioned. I see it as a policy document, and it's not the policy I want to say that I'm 100% behind. So I imagine it'll probably pass, and I do want to see the update, but I think I'm going to be a no vote on this tonight, just more for the process than for anything specific.
So I have Councilmember Green.
And I was just going to interject. I think that the reason I would, personally, I'd like to just back up and take some time and walk through this. But knowing that we're late, knowing we don't need any more black eyes with the legislature, I'd rather get it there, fix it, amend it, and really establish this once we have some time. But I don't want that black eye with the legislature, and that's the reason why I'm moving for the approval.
So I have a question to the motion. It included a condition that we revisit the landscape ordinance by September 2020.
Not the landscape, no, the landscape ordinance doesn't have to be.
Do you want?
The landscape, I'm saying that we modify the plan by 2020 and that we look at the landscape ordinance with no time frame on the landscape ordinance. Okay. To clarify that.
So if we fail to modify the plan by September 2020, would our support automatically be annulled? I get a little bit nervous when we have motions that have multiple pieces in it that reference other things that's down the road. So for me, I'm leaning towards no on this one, primarily because of those other two conditions. The conditional motion based on other action has me a little concerned.
Do you want to add something?
I don't mean to speak for the legal department, but once you submit it to the state, they don't care what your motion's gonna be. It's a reflection on your inability to get your staff to work in a certain way. So the state's gonna accept the document, and it's, I guess, hopeful that you get it updated internally, but the state's not gonna say, oh, here, they're not gonna hand it back on September 1st.
Councilmember Worthen.
I agree with Councilman Green. I think we just need to get this in. We're late, regardless of whose fault or here and there. Let's just get it done, move forward. And I do like the idea of setting some kind of date to say, well, get this re-looked at and get it done, because it gives us something to look to instead of just putting it out there and nowhere. So that's where I would agree with, I'd vote for it.
Councilmember Pack.
Thank you, Chair. So to use an academic analogy, I guess, is this kind of the rough draft we're submitting to make sure we get it in on time, and you're saying that we want to take a look at it and make it be malleable, flexible, according to what we're discussing to ensure that we at once turn it in on time, but we can still make revisions to it. So I'm just curious if there's something that I'm not getting on why it might not be amenable to submit it, since it is a live, vibrant document. It's not a static one that can't be changed. Just want to make sure I'm not missing anything there.
And to clarify my position, I'm not opposed to submitting and changing it later. I'm opposed to submitting it conditioned on changing it later. I'd rather submit it now without any other conditions in the motion, but just with an expectation among among council, that we will revisit this and update this. That additional update doesn't need to be codified, for lack of a better word.
I think I'd accept that as a friendly amendment to the motion, that we just approve it.
Do you want to amend your original motion?
I'll amend the original motion that we just approve the resolution, and that we have, that internally, because of these discussions, this isn't part of the motion, that we have an expectation that we will relook at that. So I'll just amend the motion to approve the resolution.
My second is no longer there then, because I feel strongly that we need to make sure that we do it. And I've just noticed in the past, oftentimes things don't occur if it's not put in process now. So
we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any conversation or discussion to the motion? Seeing none, let's vote.
Councilmember Pack,
Yes.
Councilmember Green,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
No.
Councilmember Lamb,
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey,
Aye.
Councilmember Worthen,
Yes.
Councilmember Whitelock.
no.
Vote passes 5-2.
Next, we have consent items. I've not had any requests to have anything pulled. Councilmember Lamb.
I move to approve consent item 8. Is that it? No, sorry. Consent items 7A and 7B.
I was gonna say, I'll second it.
Motion from Councilmember Lamb, second from Councilmember Green. Discussion to the motion? Okay, seeing none?
Councilmember Whitelock,
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey,
Aye.
Councilmember Lamb,
Yes.
Councilmember Worthen,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Councilmember Green,
Yes.
Councilmember Pack.
Yes.
Passes 7 in favor.
All right. Business items, 9A. This is from Mayor Burton, which is appointment of a member of the City Council to serve on the Utah League of Cities and Towns Legislative Policy Committee. Mayor Burton.
Thank you. I tried to preempt this earlier, so I appreciate you bringing this up for us now. So the Utah League of Cities and Towns, which is an organization that represents various cities and towns who sign up to do it, and consequently, currently, they have all the cities and towns throughout the state of Utah as members. And as that, they have a strong legislative input during the session, and they meet weekly during the session and send out non-during session weekly emails, and then during the session daily emails as to what's happening. And they like to get feedback frequently from the cities. So they have asked cities to have voting members who could respond on short notice for information and bills that are coming up with the legislators. Our city has are permitted to have 3 members who can vote. And we have selected myself as one, and Tawny Baker as another one, and we have a 3rd spot, and we would like to have a council representative, if anyone is interested, in being that 3rd position to represent the city at the Utah League of Cities and Towns, particularly their Legislative Policy Committee.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Any questions from the council? Or any nominations of a council member to serve in that position? Councilmember Lamb.
Seeing as how we've had this discussion as a council previously, I don't know if I have to move or make a motion, but I make a motion to nominate Councilmember Zach Jacob.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion by Councilmember Lamb, second by Councilmember Worthman. Any discussion to the motion? All right, let's vote.
Councilmember Lamb,
Yes.
Councilmember Pack,
Yes.
Councilmember Worthen,
Yes.
Councilmember Green,
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey,
Aye.
Councilmember Whitelock,
Abstain.
Councilmember Jacob.
Yes.
Vote passes 6 in favor.
All right. Remarks. Does anybody have any remarks for this evening? Councilmember Wortham.
I'd just like to wish our mayor a happy birthday this upcoming weekend. So, happy birthday.
Anybody else? So the one remark I wanted to bring up, this was the first time we've tried a little bit of a different format with a work session prior in the other room, and just want to get thoughts as to what you liked, what you didn't, what are your thoughts as we're trying to figure out how to make things better, easier? How are we doing? So, Councilmember Pack.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I think it worked well, and it's the first time that we tried it. I think it could only get better, and I think it appeases everyone who has different thoughts and ideas of what a work session is. At least maybe there's differing views, but I'm grateful that this way we have a work session where we have more of a discussion, and then we have more strict Robert's rules up here as a council on the dais, and it seemed to lend itself to more discussion, more access to council from citizens and staff. I enjoyed it. I thought it was efficient, and to put them on the same day, I think alleviates the problems that we've discussed on trying to have 7 schedules coincide with each other on a different day. Thank you.
Councilmember Whitelock.
I think it went pretty well. My only concern is that I know that members of the public are concerned that they can't really join us live. So I wouldn't be opposed to just holding it here so that it can be live feed. I think it's a good thing to do that so that they can hear, and that way they know who to contact and what to bring up to us. So that's my only concern, is that perhaps we do it in here as we've done others so that they can be involved, a little more involved. But I appreciate us doing it, and I heard a question of, do we still need these? I would tell you a resounding yes, you do need them. If you want to do good work for this city, you do need them.
Councilmember Wortham. Yeah. Once you hit the mic, just leave it. Once the
Just go back there. They'll go off. Kelvin, go off. No, Kelvin needs to go off.
I messed it up.
You go, okay, now you're there.
Okay, sorry about that. I like them. I said that from the beginning. I think we need to have more time with staff. That was one of the biggest concerns that I heard from resident staffs, committees, that they wanted more time to speak with us. I don't disagree having them if people would like to be able to see us, but I would like to do it so we're in a table like you guys were doing before, just to make it a more relaxed environment that people feel they can speak a little more freely. So that's where I'm at on it.
Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you. I just want to say ditto. I'm not convinced we'll need them every week, but I think as needed, as topics come up that we do need to discuss, I like the format. And I want to echo what has been said about the transparency issue. Whereas I'm aware that there are other governmental entities that hold work sessions and that do not televise, for lack of a better word, or broadcast or stream or whatever you want to use. We kind of started ourselves down that road by having them in here for the last 6, 8 months, whatever it was. And so I think we kind of made our bed, and I will always just want to err on the side of transparency where possible. So I am all for putting a table here in the well and doing it in here, and you know, moving the lectern out of the way, and having the discussion here where the cameras are, rather than try and figure out how to get cameras into some other room or not have them. I would like to err on the side of transparency.
Councilmember Green.
I actually like the other room better than in the basketball gym down there. I like the other room. I don't think that with the technology that we have with a laptop and a good camera, that if we wanted to broadcast them, that's out of the realm. I've seen that in some other cities, that they just have one camera that covers the entire room and people can hear that. I do get concerned with, for example, in the well here, people have the way the cameras focus, people can see laptop screens, people can, in some ways, and I'm not saying anybody on this council's done it, but I think that in the past there have been people who play to the camera sometimes, and so I would just assume, if we're going to broadcast it, we keep it simple, but we can still do that, and so that's my 2 cents.
Councilmember Lamb.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with Councilmember Green. I don't want to do the workshops right here in council chambers. I'd rather do it in the Shore Gallery or another area, and I agree, we need to find a way to broadcast it, and it can be, I'm sure there is a way we can do it. So my thoughts are the same as Councilmember Green, that yes, let's continue the workshops, but if we're going to do it, we need to do it in a different setting. I don't like the idea of bringing folding tables in here before council meeting and then taking the time to take them all out again. So it's kind of a little bit disruptive. So those are my 2 cents.
All right. Thank you. It was the first time. It was an experiment. It's something we haven't really done before. We're going to find ways to do things better. What I heard, is there anybody here who does not want to broadcast the work sessions? All right, so it seems like we are unanimous in that we would like to find a way to have those broadcast, regardless of whether it's here or whether it's in the other room. So I heard a couple folks suggest this room, but they also alluded to it's because we've already got the cameras here. If we can, with reasonable ease, have cameras set up in the other room, how many would prefer that we have the workshop in another room?
I don't have a preference, but I'm fine with that.
Okay. Councilmember Pack.
Oh, thank you. Just a question. I'm just curious, with the confines of the other room, do we need more seating for staff and public who might want to attend? That'd be my only concern. I really do like that room, but the configuration doesn't lend itself to many participants coming in person. Thank you.
Thank you. And we can play with that a little bit, whether it's the Shore Gallery or whether it's the community room, or whether obviously it's not going to be room 331. But we can play with it. So I appreciate the comments, appreciate the feedback. I'll work with Mr. Bricky to see what we can change for next week. See if we can, at a minimum, be set up so that we can broadcast it.
Just one.
And it is nice. I like that we're trying to set the bar for transparency, because a lot of others don't broadcast those work sessions. That was one of my biggest frustrations with the idea of a pre-meeting, where things are being discussed that impact the way people think and how they're going to vote, and it wasn't really clear, or there's not room for participants in the room where it's being held. So I really like the idea of transparency. So look for modification next week. Are there any other remarks before we look for a motion for the closed session? All right, we have, just quick clarification. We have one item of litigation to discuss, and then there are 3 personnel issues we've been asked to discuss. There is no, there's no need to discuss property. So just for those 2, when the motion's made. Councilmember Green.
I think I beat you to the punch. With that being said, I move that we adjourn, or we move to closed session for the discussion of character, professional competence, physical or mental health of an individual, and strategy session to discuss pending or reasonably imminent litigation.
And adjourn
From there.
And adjourn from there.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Green, second by Councilmember Jacob. Any discussion to the motion? Let's vote.
Councilmember Jacob.
Yes.
Councilmember Whitelock.
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb.
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Aye.
Councilmember Green.
Yes.
Councilmember Pack.
Yes.
Councilmember Worthing.
Yes.
Vote passes 7 in favor.
We'll move to closed session.
And then